Sometimes we carry emotions so heavy that we can barely breathe. It's time to talk, to let go of what's been locked inside, because what's coming isn't just inevitable, it's necessary for our growth. There's an unspoken truth between us, one that's been waiting for the right moment to surface. We need to face it, because ignoring it only builds a wall that's harder to tear down with each passing day. Every unspoken word, every unaddressed feeling weighs down on the heart. It's time to release what we've been holding on to, because the future depends on it. The silence between us is louder than any argument could ever be. It's time to break that silence, to understand what's coming and why it matters more than we realize. The hardest conversations are often the ones we've been avoiding, but once we have them, we'll find that the weight we've been carrying no longer feels as heavy. There's a turning point in every relationship, a moment where everything shifts. We can either face it together or it will face us separately. We need to talk. What's been left unsaid between us is about to catch up. The future isn't waiting for us to be ready, but we still have time to make it something meaningful. We often fear the conversations that could change everything, but it's those very conversations that give us the chance to grow, to understand, and to evolve. Our hearts have been trying to tell us something for a long time. Now it's time to listen, because what's coming will shape everything that follows. There's something powerful about truth, especially when it's shared. We need to speak our truths, no matter how daunting, because it's the only way forward. I can feel the weight of what's coming. The quiet before the storm is always the hardest part, but the clarity that comes after is what we both need. We've been walking around with unanswered questions, with feelings left unspoken. It's time to clear the air and confront what lies ahead. Our thoughts and feelings have been brewing beneath the surface, and it's time to acknowledge them. The conversations we're avoiding are the ones that will lead to our breakthrough. If we want to move forward, we can't keep pretending that everything is fine. The truth has a way of catching up, and it's better to face it together than alone. We need to talk because there's so much more beneath the surface. If we don't address it, we'll be stuck in the same place, wondering why things aren't changing. I know there's something we need to address, something we've been avoiding, but I also know that once we face it, the weight we're both carrying will be lifted. The truth isn't always easy to face, but pretending that everything is okay only makes it harder. It's time to have the conversation we've been putting off. The hardest part of any journey is the beginning, and this conversation is no exception. But once we speak our minds, we'll realize we've been waiting for this moment all along. There's something brewing between us, something that needs to be acknowledged. We can either talk about it now or let it fester, but either way, it's coming. Our feelings, our thoughts, they're waiting to be expressed. The silence between us is only holding us back, and it's time to speak up. I know we've both been carrying a lot, but the weight of unspoken words is heavier than any burden. It's time to finally talk about what's been holding us down. We can't keep dancing around the truth forever. Eventually, it will catch up to us. Let's face it, head on, together. I've been wondering what's been on your mind, what's been on mine. It's time to clear the air because holding everything inside isn't helping either of us. What's coming might feel overwhelming, but it's necessary. We can either face it with fear or with understanding, but either way, it will change everything. The silence between us is deafening. We need to speak the words we've been avoiding, because only then can we move forward and truly understand each other. We've built walls with our silence, and it's time to tear them down. The conversation we need to have isn't just important, it's the key to everything that follows. I don't want to keep walking around in circles, avoiding the truth. It's time to talk and to face what we've been running from. We've been ignoring the elephant in the room for far too long. It's time to acknowledge it, to talk about what's really been on our minds. There's a lot we haven't said to each other. It's time to break the silence and confront the reality of what's coming. The future is waiting for us, but it's asking for clarity first. Let's speak our truth and set the stage for what's next. There's a turning point where everything changes. We can either face it now or wait until it overwhelms us. The choice is ours. Unspoken thoughts have a way of holding us back. It's time to speak up, to share what's really been on our minds, because that's the only way to move forward. We've been carrying unspoken words like a heavy weight. It's time to release them, to free ourselves from what's been holding us back. The fear of the unknown can be paralyzing, but the power of honest conversation can clear the path. Let's face what's coming together. I know we've both been holding back, but what we're avoiding is only making things harder. It's time to speak, to clear the air, and to embrace what's coming. I can feel the tension building. It's time to address what's been left unsaid, because it's only getting heavier. What's coming isn't as scary as we think. It's the anticipation and avoidance that make it seem worse. Let's face it, and we'll find that it's not as daunting as it appears. We're on the verge of something big, but before it can happen, we need to talk. The silence between us is only delaying what's meant to be. The truth has a way of coming out, whether we're ready or not. Let's embrace it now so we can both be prepared for what's next. There's no point in pretending that everything is fine. It's time to talk about what's really going on in our hearts and minds. The hardest conversations are often the ones that lead to the greatest change. We need to talk about what's coming because it's the only way to move forward. I've been thinking a lot about where we are, where we're going. It's time to have the conversation that will guide us into the future. Our emotions have been brewing for a while, and it's time to let them out. The longer we wait, the harder it gets. Let's talk now before it's too late. The fear of the unknown is real, but it's nothing compared to the regret of never speaking our truth. Let's face what's coming head on. We've been waiting for the right moment to talk, but the truth is, the right moment is now. Let's have the conversation we need to have. What's coming is uncertain, but one thing is for sure. We can face it together if we're brave enough to talk about it. There's a conversation that's been long overdue. We've both been avoiding it, but avoiding it only makes things harder. It's time to talk. The silence between us is deafening, and it's time to break it. We need to talk, to clear the air, and to face what's coming. What's coming isn't something we can run from anymore. The sooner we talk, the sooner we can embrace the future with open hearts. I can feel the shift coming. It's time to have the conversation that will change everything for the better. The fear of what's ahead won't disappear unless we confront it. It's time to talk, to share our thoughts and feelings, and to face the future together. We can't keep running from what's on our minds. It's time to confront what's coming and to do it together with honesty and understanding. There's something between us that needs to be said, and it's time to speak up. Let's face what's coming and not let it catch us off guard. The future is uncertain, but our connection doesn't have to be. Let's talk about what's coming and prepare ourselves for what's ahead. We've been avoiding the inevitable, but it's time to face it. The conversation we need to have will guide us to where we're supposed to be. The truth is often scarier than we think, but it's also the key to unlocking everything that comes next. It's time to talk, and it's time to be honest. What's coming will test us, but it's also the opportunity we've been waiting for. Let's talk now and step into the future with confidence. The path forward isn't as clear as we want it to be, but having this conversation will give us the clarity we need. We've both been holding back, but it's time to let go. What's coming isn't as frightening when we face it together. Our future depends on the words we speak today. Let's talk about what's coming and let's do it with open hearts.